Dearest listener, today's story is about Bella, a human event planner who got cheated on by her boyfriend with her own cousin. In bid to get away from the sadness, she had a one-night stand with a powerful werewolf alpha who only sees her as his plaything. Will the alpha Alexander continue to disregard her feelings, or will he finally see her beyond a plaything? Get comfy and grab your favorite snack. Let's find out.
I slammed my foot against the accelerator, the speedometer needle of the car quivering as I sped through the streets of the city. Anger and hurt brewed up in my chest like a tornado, making my hands shake on the wheel. How could he do this to me? Ryan, my boyfriend of 3 years, had the guts to throw everything we had been through together for a cheap thrill with my cousin. Out of all the females in the world, it had to be her? My own cousin? The image of them entangled in each other's arms on his bed was still playing vividly in my head. And the damn bastard couldn't even deny it. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the rage swirling inside me. But it wasn't helping. I just needed to get out, to lose myself to the noise and chaos of the city. That's when I remembered Mike's text. Let's meet up at the Red Moon tonight. We'll help you forget that jerk. I drove to the club, meeting Mike and Sarah waiting outside, with concerns written on their faces. Hey girl, we're so sorry, Sarah said, pulling me in for a warm hug. I forced a smile and said, let's just get inside and forget about this, okay? All right. I nodded, fighting back tears. As we pushed through the crowds, the music found its way to me, a beat that seemed to match the anger still flowing in my veins. I got lost in the rhythm, letting the flow wash over me. As I got lost in the music, my body began to sway seductively. Suddenly I felt a rush of confidence, my leather miniskirt and black boots making me feel like a total bombshell. That's when I saw him. A tall, brooding figure with green eyes as bright as an emerald stone that seemed to see through my soul. He was sitting at the far end of the dance floor having a drink, his gaze was fixed on me. My heart skipped a beat as our eyes met. Who was he, and why did I feel this unexplainable pull towards him? All men are the same, I mentally thought as I rolled my eyes. But despite my judgment, the way he stared at me made me feel like I was the only woman in the room. I continued to dance, my hips swaying to the best. But now I was dancing for him, with my movements becoming more sensual and provocating. In the blink of an eye, he was right behind me, his body moving in perfect sync with mine. As we danced with the music pulsating around us, our bodies entwined. I felt his warm breath on my ear, sending chill shivers down my spine. What's your name, darling? He whispered with a voice that was low and husky. I smiled, feeling a thrill of excitement flow through me. This darling got no name, I replied, my voice barely audible because of the loud music. He chuckled and laughed, his eyes shimmering with amusement. You like secrets, then? As we continued to dance, I could feel my desire growing. His proximity, his touch, his scent. Fuck. Everything about him made me feel horny and needy. He leaned in closer, his lips and hot breath fanning against my ears. I can feel your trouble, he whispered. Let me take it away, he offered. His offer made my heart skip a beat. How did he know? What makes you feel I'm troubled? I asked. He smiled as he replied mysteriously. I can smell it. Who the hell was this guy, and why did I feel drawn to him like a moth to a flame? We eventually left the club and drove to his house. This mysterious man led me to his rich bedroom with dim lighting and soft music creating this intimate atmosphere. He approached me, his eyes burning with a great desire. You're beautiful, he whispered, his fingers tracing the curve of my neck. His touch made me shiver. It felt like a spark of electricity was running through me. His eyes burning with a great desire. You're really beautiful, he repeated. He leaned in, giving me a gentle kiss. As we deepened the kiss, I felt myself melting in his arms. Just when I thought he would be gentle, he became rough. His mouth sucked on my lower lips. It felt like he wanted to devour anything that touched his mouth. I reciprocated his energy by wrapping my arms around his neck. His fingers danced across my skin. I grew more needy. He knew exactly how to make me crave him more, which was insane. With a swift motion, we were on the bed, his body covering mine. Our breath was heavy, my body bringing with us desires. Sucking the left nipples, I moaned, my fingers digging into his back as my body waited for the main meal. Fuck. I moaned immediately I felt him in. My fingers dug deeper as he adjusted his big member in me. It felt so warm, a rush of excitement sparkling between my thighs. He wasn't gentle. I held the bed sheet tight as he held my waist, diving in and pulling out while my moan filled the room. He was so good. As we reached the peak of our passion, I felt I was flying, my spirit soaring to new heights. Something I have never experienced before. The morning light streamed through the window, causing my eyes to slowly open. The light highlighted this mysterious man's features. His jawline, his nose, his full lips that had exploded my body hours ago. It seemed the heavens took its time to form such a beauty. I thought, my gaze drifting over his chiseled chest. My blonde spilled on the pillow as I turned to face him. My hand, with a mind of its own, moved to trace the contours of his face. Just as my fingertips brushed against his lips, he stirred, and his emerald eyes snapped open. Our eyes met, but his was burning with an inner intensity. Swiftly, he grasped my hand, his fingers wrapped around mine like a vice. I felt shivers running through me as he held my gaze. Damn, he had memorizing eyes. You're a very bold one, aren't you? His voice laced with amusement. Is that how you go around touching men while they are asleep? I felt a flush rise to my cheeks as I pulled my hand back. What are you talking about? I asked. The only response I got was his chuckle while he swung his legs over the side of the bed. He stood up with a towel wrapped around his waist and walked over to a safe in the corner of the room. He entered a pin, opened it, and pulled out bundles of cash which he tossed into the bed beside me. Thanks for your service. I enjoyed every bit of the night, he said. At that moment, I felt a wave of disgust wash over me. You think I slept with you for your money? I asked with my voice shaking with anger. He raised an eyebrow. Didn't you? He asked with his voice dripping with sarcasm. So that's what he thought of me? Men. How humiliating. What kind of woman do you think I am? I demanded. He shrugged. Just a woman who knows how to take care of herself. He replied with amusement. How dare he? Take your money with you to hell and rot for eternity. I spat out, entering the bathroom to shower and dress up. After I was done, I found him facing the window, probably enjoying the view. Gosh, my anger and humiliation were boiling over. I turned my heels and walked out of the room, slamming the door shut behind me. I didn't stop till I was out of the house, gasping in the cool morning air. I had to calm myself down. My phone suddenly rang. It was Rachel. B, what's up? Where are you? She asked. Oh, I just needed space, you know, I replied. I understand, boo. Come home soon, okay? Don't forget you got a charity ball to plan for. Of course. How could I forget? I got an event taking place next month to plan for. As I stood at the entrance of the grand ballroom, I took a deep breath, surveying the crowd. The charity gala was in full swing, with wealthy humans and werewolves mingling together. We were in the century when humans and wolves lived in harmony. My team and I had worked tirelessly to ensure everything from the flower arrangement to the catering was absolutely perfect. I felt a sense of pride as an event planner as I watched the guests enjoy themselves. Just for a moment, my mind wandered to him. I had thought about him nonstop for days. His piercing green eyes and chiseled features. Nath, I pushed the thought aside, focusing on my task. And then, I saw him. He stood across the room. Once again, his eyes locked mine with a hint of a smile playing on his lips. My heart skipped a beat as our gaze met for a moment. The noise and chaos of the party faded for a while. I ignored him after remembering that humiliating incident. Just when I was about to turn away, I spotted my ex, Ryan, in the middle of the hall, chatting with a group of people. He was wealthy, no joke, and had always used his charm to get what he wanted, but what got my attention was the person standing beside him. My cousin, Sophia. I immediately felt like throwing up just remembering that night. Just then, I overheard a group of women gossiping nearby. Is that Alpha Alexander? One of them whispered. He's so hot and powerful. I looked in their direction, and followed their eyes. It was him. The man from the other night. Alpha Alexander? Werewolf? Suddenly, the way he moved with such power made sense. Heard he's ruthless in business, and on the bed too. As expected, men. But those green eyes, heavens. I watched as Alpha Alexander worked the room, shaking hands with the guests. He seemed to command attention even without trying. The party was starting to become way noisy, and so I stepped out to the balcony, seeking refuge from the noise of the party. The cold breeze swept across my bare back. I closed my eyes, allowing the cool air to calm my nerves. However, my peace was short-lived. I felt his presence behind me like a whispered promise of danger and excitement. His warm blow across my back sent goosebumps down my skin. "We meet again, darling," he whispered with his voice low and husky. I turned around, my heart racing with a longing. But as our eyes met, I suddenly remembered how he had treated me like a slut. My anger and humiliation flared up again and I tried to pull away. He was too quick, probably a werewolf trait. He grabbed my hand, pinning it behind my back. His warm breath fanned my ears as he nibbled my ears, sending shivers down my spine. "You don't get to leave, my darling. Until I say so," he growled. I struggled against his grip. He was way too strong. I was trapped at his mercy, and yet a part of me thrilled at the danger and excitement of being held captive by this powerful and mysterious alpha. "Let go of my hand," I hissed, "or I'll scream." This alpha chuckles and whispers with his eyes filled with amusement. He seemed to be enjoying the show. "Go ahead. I dare you." I glared at him and then he finally released me. I stormed back into the party. I could loudly hear my heart racing with anger. Immediately I got into the ballroom. I was surrounded by the most annoying couple. Ryan and Sophia flashed me a sweet smile, which, of course, I knew was a fake. "Hey Cause," she called out. Every word that left her mouth was dripping with insincerity. "You look stunning tonight. Your outfit surprisingly brings out the color in your eyes. Is that so?" I forced a smile, trying to feel nice that this bastard had to ruin the moment. "Bella, darling," he said, "I think I owe you something. For your years of troubles, of course." "And what could that be? An apology?" He pulled out a check and stretched it out to me. Once again, I felt the surge of anger and humiliation. What the hell do everyone take me for? I screamed inside me. "You think your money will clear out 3 years of my life? You think I need your money?" I asked, trying to keep my cool. Ryan smirked. "Isn't that why you dated me? You saw I was going to be so wealthy and you clinged to me." My fist clinged as my rage tripled. But I had to keep my cool. 3 years of supporting him, 3 years of sharing my hard-earned money with him, 3 years of putting his happiness before mine. And he was the one saying this? I fought so hard not to cry. I'll never give them the satisfaction of seeing me cry. Sophia, on the other hand, didn't help as she poured her glass of wine on my peach dress, which left an obvious stain. "Oh no. I'm so sorry, Bella," she pretended to be sweet. "It was an accident," she claimed. The room fell silent with all eyes on me. I took a deep breath, counting mentally to 10 to calm myself because I was about to explode. I was tempted to beat her right there, but I knew I wasn't going to ruin my reputation in a high-profile event like this. Instead, I smiled and made a dignified exit. "Excuse me," I said with my voice as sweet as honey. "I think I have had enough for tonight." As I walked into my house, I was so glad to be away from the drama and stress of the event. They wanted war and I was ready to fight back, but I'm glad I didn't. I was greeted by Rachel, Emily, Sarah, and Mike, who were busy having the time of their life, sipping wine. "Girl, what happened?" Sarah asked, concern etched on her face. "You look like you've been through a war." And yeah, actually I was. I quickly took a bath and collapsed on the couch right beside them. "Sophia and Ryan. That's what happened," I finally replied. Emily's eyes widened. "Those two are something else, aren't they?" she said. "What did they do this time after ruining your mental health?" I filled them in on the details, from the wine stain to Ryan's hurtful comment. Rachel and Emily listened, their faces growing increasingly outraged. "I'm so dealing with Sophia. Give me her contact," Rachel declared. "And that ex of yours? He's getting a special place in hell. He'll burn for eternity." Mike nodded in agreement. "Girls talk, and I've got the scoop," he said, a mischievous glint in his eye. "Ryan's been telling everyone, social media and physically, that you were just a gold digger, and that's why he dumped you." "That's not true," I said, my voice cold. "And I'll make sure everyone knows it." Rachel and the rest crew high-fived me. "Do not fear, babe. We've got your back, girl," Rachel said. "And we're going to take down Sophia and Ryan together." "And yeah, I met someone at the ball too." "He." I was precise. "He?" "Fill us in, babe," Sarah said, excited. I hesitated for a moment, unsure of how much I should reveal. But my friends' eager faces encouraged me to open up. "So I met him at the club, and we talked," I said, trying to downplay the intensity of our encounter. "He was charming and mysterious, and I ended up going home with him." Emily's eyes widened. And? She asked, her voice full of anticipation. I took a deep breath, deciding how much to share. Let's just say it was an interesting night, I said, trying to sound casual. But there's something else. He's a werewolf. Rachel and Emily exchanged a stunned glance. A werewolf? Mike repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, feeling a shiver run down my spine. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. And tonight, at the gala, I found out he's the alpha. Emily's eyes sparkled with excitement. This is getting juicier by the minute, she said, leaning in closer. Sarah, on the other hand, looked concerned. B, are you sure you're okay? I mean, werewolves can be dangerous, you know? I smiled reassuringly. I'm fine, Ratch. Really? And besides, there's something about him. I don't know. It's hard to explain. My friends shared a knowing glance and I could tell what they were thinking. I was in trouble. It was another day to secure a contract on behalf of my superior. I got out of my car and smoothed out my pencil skirt that fell just above my knees. I topped it with a sleek high neckline corporate shirt and my blonde hair was pulled back into a bun. I was here to land a major contract for my company, and I wasn't going to let anything get in my way. As I walked to the waiting room, I spotted Sophia sitting in the corner enjoying a sip of her coffee. Trust me, I did my best to ignore her, but she caught my eyes and smiled sweetly. I felt angry, but I bit my tongue and took a seat away from her. I pulled out my phone and began to scroll through my novel library, trying to distract myself from her presence. Just as I was starting to relax, the secretary came in and cleared her throat. Good morning, Miss Bella. The CEO can see you now. I stood up, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. Finally. But Sophia jumped up from her seat, looking outraged. Excuse me, I was here before her, she said, her voice dripping with entitlement. The secretary looked flustered. I apologize, Miss Sophia, but the CEO specifically requested to see Miss Bella first. I felt a surge of satisfaction at the look on Sophia's face, but I didn't have time to gloat. The secretary was already leading me down the hallway to the CEO's office. As we walked, I couldn't help but wonder what the CEO would be like. Would he be friendly and approachable, or stern and intimidating? The secretary stopped in front of a large wooden door and knocked twice. Enter. A deep, smooth voice called out. I took a deep breath and stepped inside, my heart pounding in my chest. And that's when I saw him. Alpha Alexander. The mysterious stranger from the club, sitting behind the desk with a hint of a smile on his face. What the hell? I could swear that I stood frozen. He was the last person I was expecting to see sitting behind the CEO's desk. For a moment, we just stared at each other. The tension between us was palpable. Alexander's expression was neutral, but I detected a hint of amusement in his eyes. He leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers together. Miss Bella, he said, his deep voice sending shivers down my spine. It's a pleasure to see you again. I swallowed hard, trying to regain my composure. Alpha Alexander, I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. He raised an eyebrow. Please, call me Alex. We're alone now. I nodded, feeling a flush rise to my cheeks. This was going to be a very long meeting. I have been expecting you, Bella, Alexander said, his eyes gleaming with a knowing intensity. Sincerely, I must say, you're even more beautiful than I remembered. I got goosebumps, hearing him say those words. But before I could respond, his secretary walked in with a stunning bouquet of rare, exotic flowers. Ah, perfect timing, Alexander said, his eyes never leaving mine. I wanted to make a special impression. The flowers were breathtakingly beautiful, but what caught my attention was the type of flowers they were. They were called moon blooms, and they were legendary for being extremely rare and difficult to obtain. But what made my heart skip a beat was the fact that moon blooms were known to be a symbol of the werewolf's mate or human bride. I felt a surge of confusion and curiosity. Who were these flowers for? And then, in a move that left me stunned, Alexander stood up, took the bouquet from his secretary, and walked over to me. He held out the flowers, his eyes burning with intensity. Bella, from the moment I met you, I knew you were special, he said, his voice low and husky. Will you be my bride? What? Ah! I felt like I had been punched in the gut. Bride? Was he serious? I stood there, frozen in shock, the moon blooms trembling in my hands. I stared at Alexander, incredulous. Is this some kind of joke? I asked, my voice shaking with anger. Alexander's expression remained serious, but I could see a hint of amusement in his eyes. I get what I want, Bella. You have no say in this, he replied. I laughed. A harsh, mocking sound. You expect me to believe that you, Alpha Alexander, want to marry me? After one night together? After you disrespected me? You must think I'm crazy. Alexander's eyes narrowed, but I didn't care. I turned on my heel and stormed out of the office, leaving him standing there. As I walked down the hallway, I could feel eyes on me, but I didn't care. I just wanted to get out of there as fast as I could. Just as I was about to reach the door, the secretary called out to me. Miss Bella, please wait. I turned to see her hurrying towards me, the bouquet of moon blooms in her hand. Alexander wanted you to have these, she said, holding out the flowers. I hesitated, not wanting to take the flowers, but the secretary's insistent expression made me sigh. I took the flowers before anyone started taking videos of us. I left feeling a sense of unease as I did so. The secretary smiled and nodded. Have a nice day, Miss Bella. I nodded curtly and turned to leave, the moon blooms clutched awkwardly in my hand. As I walked out of the building, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was in, over my head. Later that day, I lay in my bed as I stared at the moon blooms on the nightstand beside me. The delicate flowers seemed to glow in the dark. What a beauty! My mind kept replaying back to Alexander's outrageous proposal. I blushed as I remembered how he had asked me to be his bride. Shameless, I would call that. I sighed, feeling a flutter in my chest. Why do I keep thinking about him? Why do I feel this strange, inexplicable connection to him? I shook my head, trying to clear my thoughts. I was not going to fall for Alexander's charms. I was not going to be swayed by his wealth, his power, or his ridiculously handsome face. But as I drifted off to sleep, the moon blooms seemed to whisper a different story. The next morning, I groggily reached for my phone, rubbing the sleep from my eyes. But as I saw the countless notifications flooding my screen, my heart sank. Did someone die? Check the news on your phone. Sarah's voice echoed from the living room. I hesitated for a moment, but my curiosity got the best of me. I scrolled through the news headlines, and my eyes widened in horror. What the hell? Alpha Alexander chooses bride, screamed the headlines. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. But what really caught my attention was the comments section. Someone had recorded our encounter in the hallway, and the video was spreading like wildfire. And then I saw it, a comment that made my blood boil. She slept with the alpha and seduced him into proposing. Someone had written. I felt a wave of anger and humiliation wash over me. Who was this monitoring spirit? I disguised myself in a wig, sunglasses, and a hat. I was going to confront Alexander and cut whatever ties I had with him. I stormed to his office with the moon blooms hidden in my bag. As I approached the door, I heard his voice. He was probably in a meeting with someone. If she is already carrying your child, you should take responsibility, the other man said. Alexander's voice was cold as he spoke. I'm not responsible for her. She's just a human plaything. What the? My blood boiled at his words. The other man chuckled. You're being too soft with her, Alexander. You should seduce her more, shower her with gifts. Ladies love that. Get her pregnant and cut all ties with her. I felt so pissed off. So this was what Alexander had planned for me since day one? I took a deep breath as I contemplated on if confronting him was a good thing. Nah, I should just leave. Just as I was about to turn and leave, Alexander's secretary spotted me by the door. Miss Bella? She called out puzzled. I froze, hoping to remain unnoticed, but it was way too late. The door to his office swung open, revealing his tall figure, his eyes narrowing as he took in my disguise. He grasped my arm and pulled me in. Come in, he commanded. The other man who had been advising him on how to treat me like a disposable plaything looked shocked. But Alex, we were in the middle of a discussion. He protested. Alexander's eyes flashed with anger as he growled. Leave. Which the man did, leaving Alex and me in his office. Alexander's eyes seemed to vote into mine as if he was daring to deny the truth. You heard everything, didn't you? He asked. I raised an eyebrow, still feeling angry. Men will always be men, no matter what creature they are. I spat, my voice dripping with venom. I dropped the moon blooms on his desk. Thanks for ruining my reputation. Alex's expression remained calm. You're misunderstanding. He began, and I cut him off, I didn't want to hear what he had to say. No, I'm not misunderstanding anything. I understand exactly the type of man you are. I turned to leave, but his voice stopped me. Bella, wait, he commanded. Before I could react, he pinned me against the wall, my hands trapped above my head. I felt a surge of fear mixed with adrenaline as he leaned in close. Yes, I am looking for a human to bear my child, he confessed. But you're not a plaything, Bella. You're my mate. This whole wolf pattern of finding a partner and all was something I still found hard to understand. I laughed. Your mate? You don't even know me. His eyes looked at me with an intense inner fire. My wolf knows you, he whispered, and I know I want you. He placed a kiss on my neck and damn, I almost lost my mind. The sensation was electrifying, sending sparks flying through my entire body. He pulled back, his eyes were gleaming with satisfaction. I'll get rid of all the trash that is written out there about you, he promised. You're mine. I'm the only one who gets to bully you. He released and lay against the wall, trying to breathe. I didn't believe him. I couldn't believe him. He was just trying to manipulate me. I turned and ran out of the office, not stopping until I was home. As I locked the door behind me, I couldn't shake the feeling that his words had left in me. Days turned into weeks, and the news about Alexander's proposed bride has finally died down thanks to his efforts. I was free to continue my social life without being hounded by the press. I was shopping at the plaza, browsing through my favorite stores, when I ran into Ryan and Sophia. I did my best to ignore them, but nah, I wasn't lucky. I heard you're sleeping with Alexander just to be his bride. How convenient. I rolled my eyes trying to ignore her jab. But Ryan's comments were what really got to me. I wondered what your parents would think of you slutting around. He sneered. And that was when I lost it. I slapped him across the face, my hand stinging from the impact. Don't you ever mention my parents. I hissed. They may be dead, but I couldn't tolerate any more disrespect to them. Sophia jumped into the fray. You think you're so much better than us, don't you? She shouted with her face twisted with disgust. In every way I am. At least I don't eye another woman's man and open her eyes. Let's be sincere here. You're no different from a slut. And with that, I slapped her. The sound echoing attracted people to stare. Ryan's face turned red with anger, and he raised his hand to hit me, but before he could, someone was on his wrist. It was Alexander. I don't think so. He growled. How dare you touch my bride? Ryan struggled against Alex's grip, but he was no match for Alex's strength. He screamed at the agonizing pain. Alex, it's okay. They are not worth your time, I said, snapping his mind to me. His expression suddenly turned soft. Are you okay? Yes, I am. I nodded. As I looked into his eyes, I could see that he was really concerned about me, and that made my heart skip a beat. Alex dropped me off at my place, his eyes lingering on mine as he waited for me to invite him in. Well, Sarah wasn't around, so it might not be a bad idea. Would you like to come in? I asked. He broke into a smile and replied, I'd love to. We spent the evening cooking dinner together, laughing and chatting like an actual couple. The air around him was comforting, sparkling up a flame inside me. After dinner, we settled in to watch a movie, his arms wrapped around me while he held me close. I felt so warm and safe, like nothing would ever hurt me as long as I was by my side. I'm so sorry, Bella. He apologized. I had to pretend I was following the pack rules. Having an heir is a way of securing my position as the alpha of the pack. Sincerely, that night was the best night of my life. Everything down to your sassy behavior intrigued me. I know, I understand. I love you, Alex. I bolt her out without knowing. It was crazy, I knew. I love you too, Bella. He responded. You're supposed to mark me right, more like a bite? I asked as I remembered Sarah giving me the gist of them. You want me to mark you now? He asked, surprised. Yes, I replied, and we found our way to my room. He took off my shirt while he kissed me, trying to calm my nerves. It might hurt a bit, he said as he pinned my lower body to the bed while his hands held the upper part. His lips brushed against my neck, and I felt a surge of pleasure as his fags sank into my skin. I gasped. It didn't hurt. It made me tremble with desires instead. As he marked me, I felt a deep connection with him, like our souls were now connected. He pulled back with a smile. I want you, I shamelessly said as I couldn't explain how my body felt so needy all of a sudden. No questions asked. Alex dived down to devour my lips.
The end. Please like, comment and subscribe for more interesting werewolf romance stories. Lots of love.